Nailed it! Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to Drinks and a Movie. Chris Hamker back with you, and today we're talking about X-Men Apocalypse. And I thought I would revisit the Four Horsemen. If you remember, I did that a little while ago when the first X-Men Apocalypse trailer came out. I did a flaming Four Horsemen because it was Apocalypse. I thought they should be on fire or some sort. Anyway, I, with my mind, because it's X-Men, lit this on fire. So this one is So what the Four Horsemen is, let's back up a bit. So what the Four Horsemen is Jim, Jack, Johnny, and Jamison. Four Horsemen. Four Horsemen of whiskey. Whiskey, bourbon, scotch, whiskey. Anyway. Four Horsemen, each put in a shot glass and then topped with your spoon with a bit of 151 Barcardi and then lit on fire. You blow it out before drinking it because you don't want to catch your face on fire. So cheers. I'm going to do one now and then do another one and maybe a fourth by the end of the review. So cheers everybody. Oh. Alright everybody, let's get into this. We are talking about X-Men Apocalypse, directed by Bryan Singer, and he's back with his fourth X-Men movie, and he seems right at home in this universe. This time it's 1983, and Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters is in full swing, with Charles Xavier as headmaster, played wonderfully by James McAvoy once again. And little does he know that Apocalypse has awoken in Egypt and is ready to wreak havoc on the world. And he is also played menacingly by Oscar Isaac, who's a wonderful actor, and I love Oscar Isaac. This time we're still sticking with the first class crew of Xavier, Magneto, and Mystique, played respectively by McAvoy, Fassbender, and Lawrence, and we're still joined by Nicholas Hoult as Beast, and Evan Peters as Quicksilver, and newcomers Ty Sheridan as Scott Summers, and Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. So I'll be the first to admit that I am an X-Men fan from the word go. I've been reading these comics since I was a kid, from the late 80s all the way through the 90s. I was a huge fan of the television series of the 90s, and I was so much of a bigger fan of the X-Men than I was like the Avengers, Spider-Man, Batman, or Superman as a kid. I just loved their stories. And, full disclosure, I also am a big fan of the movie series, and I do think that, arguably, and we can have these discussions if you want, that X2, the second X-Men movie, is one of the best comic book movies ever made. I mean, it has some incredible sequences, like the first Nightcrawler sequence of that movie in the White House, to Magneto's escape of his prison, to Wolverine defending the Xavier's school. I mean, that movie is incredible, and it's directed by Bryan Singer as well. So yeah, I'm definitely an X-Men fanboy at heart, and so because of that, I think we should go on to our second shot. This is Jack, Senor Jack, as he's called in Spain, and then we'll top it off with the Barcardi. You take your spoon, you set it right on the top there. I'm doing a little tutorial here, and just layer it a bit, and then we will light her up. Look at that, everybody. Alright, here we go. Cheers. So what did I think of this movie? I kind of loved it. I gotta say, I had a blast with this movie. Bryan Singer's back to direct, and he is, to me, at the top of his game. Like I said, I think he's very comfortable in this universe. He is the type of the director that lets the plot drive the action sequences and not the other way around. Sometimes you have action movies that are just rushing to the next action sequence and doesn't have anything really in between to give it depth and emotional weight, and this movie is definitely not the case. It had a lot of emotional weight, and there are action sequences in there, but they don't, like I said, drive the plot. And there are bits that have like heavy CGI, and they're mostly toward the end, and it seems a bit too much at certain points. It was almost as if for CGI's sake sometimes. But it was very, very small little bits that I thought that. This movie also takes its time with its characters. Now, this movie does admittedly have a lot of characters, but what this movie has that some of the movies don't have, Batman v Superman, it has familiarity with the characters that you've had from previous films. So they kind of already have given you a backstory in kind of a roundabout way by showing you how they are when they're older. Now they're showing you how they're younger, so they don't have to spend a lot of time on extra backstory with like Storm or Jean Grey or Cyclops, because you kind of already know those characters a little bit to begin with. So the movie had everything I'd come to expect from an X-Men movie. It had great action sequences, emotional weight to the characters, a pretty solid villain. Not too complicated of a villain, but solid. Apocalypse isn't complicated. He is the quintessential survival of the fittest. He is Darwin incarnate. He is, if you're weak, I'm going to weed you out, and whoever's left standing has the privilege of standing by my side. All the actors are great in this movie. There's top-notch performances. McAvoy, Fassbender give even more depth to their characters. Jennifer Lawrence, I usually like Jennifer Lawrence a lot. I think she's a great actress. I don't think she understands how to play a superhero. I don't think it's her fault. I don't think she was phoning it in like a lot of people are saying, but I just don't think she gets how to do it, and so sometimes it comes off a bit wooden. The newcomers are great. Ty Sheridan, like I mentioned, is Cyclops, and Sophie Turner is Jean Grey, are really good, and I think they're going to lean more toward them in the future of this series as bigger characters, and I'm all for that. And Evan Peters, please, Evan Peters, continue to do these movies as Quicksilver. He has, and I didn't think they'd be able to top Days of Future Past, but he has another one of his, Quicksilver sequences, and it is so much fun, and it is phenomenal, and I loved it. I mentioned Oscar Isaacs as Apocalypse, and his voice is great. He carries himself well, and I loved him. I love Oscar Isaac anyway. All right, so of course, as usual, there are some very small things that I didn't like or I wish they would have changed. First of all, Apocalypse's size. Now, to me, he's the big bad of the movie, and so he needs to be physically menacing as well as just, imposing in general. And I love Oscar Isaac, but he's not a tall guy, and there was a moment where Fassbender's Magneto and he were standing face to face, and he had to kind of almost look up to Magneto a little bit, and Apocalypse should never, ever look up to anybody, ever. I just wish, just in general, his size was a little bit bigger. It just would have made more sense of the character. I mean, there was a group shot, and he almost looked like the smallest one at one point. It just didn't feel right. I mean, he was still menacing. He was still like, he was taking control. He was doing his thing. But I just wanted him to be a little bit bigger. Second, I didn't like, and no spoilers, I didn't like Magneto's motivations by the end of the movie. I think Bryan Singer and his team, his writers, like Simon Kinberg, need to figure out what they're doing with Magneto, because it's getting a little frustrating. He is the one that kind of brings a lot of this emotional weight to the movie, and so by the end, I just wish his motivations were a little clearer as to why he was doing what he was doing. Without spoiling anything, that's the best I can get. So, now that I've talked about the negatives, let's do one more Horseman here. So we'll go to Jim here, Jimmy Beam, Jimmy Beamer, as he's called in the BMW community. Put a little bit of the 151 to set her on fire a little. Alright. Let's oh, yep, there it is. There's a little blue flame. I don't know if you can see it with all the lights on, but it's there. It's there, kids. The blue flame is there. Let's blow it out. Don't ever drink this with it, on fire, because you'll burn your eyebrows off. They don't grow back. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, that's hot. Some people are going to say that I'm fanboying out about this movie, and so I'll just say it for them. I might be. I don't know. It's hard to say. But what I do know is that I'm a giant fan of the X-Men series. I love the comics. Like I said before, the late 80s, 90s in the series. I love the movies, and I might be. It's hard to distinguish between something that you loved and grown up with and seeing it on the screen. You might be rose-colored glasses, viewing it a bit. Some of the critics are saying that this movie's kind of a mess and there's too many things going on, and I'm actually starting to empathize with these Batman v Superman fans that I've actually talked to, and they've told me that I would have enjoyed it more if I'd have had a background on the subject matter. If I'd have known the ins and outs of the comic book, I would have enjoyed it more. And that may be true for this movie. I don't know. All I know is that I just had a ton of fun with this movie, and I can't wait to see it again. And so, all in all, guys, I gotta say, I'm gonna give this movie a 5 drinks out of 5. I know it's shocking, but I mean, I sat after that movie and I loved it. I had just so much fun, and I didn't find much wrong with it, and I'm sticking by that. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Let's try this last one real quick. And while I'm pouring this, let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite X-Men movie? What's your least favorite? I'm sure it's going to be The Last Stand, because that movie's terrible. But, yeah, let me know what your favorite movie is. Let me know what you think of this movie is. And real quick, while I'm pouring this, I'm going to do a Hollywood please on this. But I'm asking now, Fox, please stop spoiling little bits of fun cameos in your trailers, because if they hadn't have spoiled something that happened in this movie in one of their trailers, and I was watching it for the first time, I had no idea what was going to happen, it would have blown my mind when it happened in this movie. I'm not going to spoil anything for people who hadn't seen the trailers, but I did watch the trailer, and it was just please, movie studios, stop spoiling your movies in the trailers. I didn't really catch on fire, but who really gives a shit? Cheers, everybody. Have a drink on me. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this, subscribe down at the bottom. Thank you again.